Here's my mom and dad's house. It's been quite a while since I've been back to see them, but here I am now. I know that they'll be happy to see their favorite son. Wait a minute. That's them now. Yep, that's my dad on the right. There's my mom on the left coming around the house. Mom, Dad, it's your son. Wait, Mom, Dad, wait a minute. Wait, Mom, Dad, what? Where are they going? Hey, Mom, Dad, wait a minute. Ah, they probably didn't know it was me. Closing the door, too. Huh, they probably didn't know that was me. But they didn't recognize it, who it was. Oh, anyway, I'm going over to the door now. They're going to be so surprised to see their son. Yeah, I just rang the doorbell. Oh, door's locked. Alright. Mom, Dad, it's me!
Didn't I tell you to never pass this way?
Dad, Mama! It's me! Haven't got a son. Wait a minute. It's your favorite son. In fact, I'm your favorite child. Me.
Skip, I told you to never pass this way again.
Oh, me. For me.
Where have you been?
Everything's working good. Let's see, I got everybody in the picture here. I'm just making sure I get it out of that movie a whole lot. Yeah.
Don't you dare rain on that parade.
Yeah. You got birds out there. Should take a picture of the magnolia tree that Daddy wanted me to cut down one time. All right, I guess.
Cut it down.
Huh?
I wish you had cut it down.
Lord help me, son.
The same film, and I'm changing. It goes 2 hours with quality all the time.
Get more
I
like
can
you.
set it slower, it doesn't go as fast, and it can last for 6 hours.
Sure won't take 2 hours. I don't know. Yeah, you can see a lot of things. First class movies on those 2 hours. I get to have movies.
We want to do this. I can put this right here on this table.
And then I got this thing that the Rebus came over from Germany.
Okay.
And then I got a picture of my grandfather.
Great. Yeah, all right, that's fine.
And I got a picture of me in nursing.
Okay, I think. Okay, we cleared all this up now. My mom and dad are talking to me now, and it costs money. I had to pay both my mom and my dad some money. so that they would actually admit that they know me. It's my birthday today. I'm 43 years old. I'm 43 years old. All right. And this is something that my mom and dad have given me for my birthday. It's a present to me. It's a video of our lives in past lives. And that was beautiful, wasn't it, Mom? I
Oh,
said that
very,
real well. Shouldn't I be an actor?
Right.
And we never really talked a lot about our family. I always thought maybe that all of our family was hung up in a tree for being a horse thief. I was never sure. One time they tell me I was Scotch, next time they tell me I was Irish, English. Somehow or another, my Uncle Charlie used to say we were part Cherokee. I never did understand that, why he could be part Cherokee and my father couldn't be. But anyway, I want to thank my mom and dad, and we're going to start. All right.
Well, welcome to our home in our backyard at 38 Burley Street. And happy birthday, Skip. This is my life from 1915 to 1988. The best of my knowledge. I was born in a little lumber town in Gilmerton, named for Governor Gilmerton. They had churches, doctors, and houses, and with picket fences around it. My mother, Alice E. Clark Kellum, was born in Gilmerton too, and went to Deep Creek High School and graduated, which she never let me forget. My father was born in Berkeley, son of John Ward Kellum and Mary Norris Kellum. Both died when my father was young. He worked with his father at Franklin Company, Camp Lumber Company, and had come to Gilmerton to measure lumber, and met my mother. They were married at the Methodist Church with all the town there by Dr. Bates, August the 29th, 1914. One was 18, one was 21, and went to Virginia Beach on a train for their honeymoon. When I was 3 years old, my brother, Leonard Thomas Kellum, was born. He was a beautiful baby, and I loved him very much. When I was 6 years old, I went to the one school in Gilmerton and was taught by Esther Johnson. All grades went there. Then, when I was 7 years old, we moved to Crowder, and my daddy went to work for the ammunition depot. My cousin Ellen Lee and Francis came every summer to visit Mother and me and Grandpa Clark, who lived in Gilmerton too. We had a ball. We did a lot of little mischievous things and giggled and had fun. We moved to Craddock in 1922 on Channing Avenue. My father bought 12 and 14. I went to Craddock High School and enjoyed it very much. We had to come home for lunch. There was no lunchroom at the time. It was okay. I had a ball. My years in high school were my best. My mother used to play the piano for us every Friday night, and our house was full for dancing. My daddy loved young folks too, and would take us all to the canal to swim Saturday. Also took us on hay rides and old trucks. Most of the time he had to end up paying for it. I think the reason he took all of us was to be sure that I didn't get into any trouble. My mother played for Eastern Star that met on Saturday night and church for over 15 years. Very active in the Craddock activities. They put on minstrels, and I used to dance in them and sing in them, believe it or not. My daddy's name was Snowball in the minstrels. Going back to my high school days were fun. I was on the debating team. I was a cheerleader. I was in all athletics. I was very quiet, but I managed to win my letters in athletics. I played forward, believe it or not, and was mascot for all the boys' team, including the baseball team and football team.
Wait a minute now, Mama. Well, what did mascot mean? I mean, what did that mean?
Well, they voted that the girl in high school that they wanted to was the best all around everything. I mean, not most everything.
Wait a minute, I don't know if we should be getting into this right now, Mama. I mean,
And I would go along with them and keep score and things like that.
well, how was the basketball then?
Yeah.
How was the basketball? Was it the same way basketball?
Yeah?
Played the same way?
No. No, basketball wasn't played the same way. We played outdoors on the court. And
Wasn't quite as fast as it
No,
is.
You
not
had the
fast.
stationary going.
you didn't have to have the athletic ability that you have now. And you didn't have to have the grades. You just had to have the attitude and the willingness to do it. Because some of them would have never made it if it wasn't for grades.
Well, now, my grandfather and your father. Now, what nationality was he?
My father's people were Scotch and Irish, the best of my knowledge. All of my mother's people and grandfather's people were German. Came from
Cherokee.
Germany. Came right
Okay.
from
You don't remember any Cherokee Indians?
No
your-
Cherokee
okay,
Indian, but
all
I
right.
do remember that my Nanny used to tell me their names were Von Peterhof in Germany. In fact, I looked them up when we were in Germany, but there were no Von Peterhofs. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, go right ahead.
I had always loved to be outdoors. From 1940 to 1944. Wait a minute, I got it wrong.
I know.
Wouldn't you knew? No, I did skip. Oh, I forgot. I was out of school 1 year, and I used to babysit, and then the following year, which would have been about 1933, I graduated from high school in 1933, I went to Farmville College for 1 year. I enjoyed that, but I just wanted to go in training so bad that my daddy and mama finally, we had to have consent at 19 to go in training. My daddy was very, very against it, but mama wanted me to go, so I went in Norfolk General in 1935, and had 3 years of training, and enjoyed it very much, and graduated and got my state board. And then I worked for the hospital for 1 year as head nurse in pediatric department. And in that year I met your daddy through his cousin, who was a roommate of mine in training, and we went around in a whole lot of people, but I never went with him. I had other dates.
You
And
didn't want to associate with any Deep Creek boys, right,
Yeah.
Mama?
we had a ball. And then in 1938, I went to Danville, and I was head nurse at Danville Hospital for a year. Your daddy used to come up to see me every weekend. Sometimes he would bring my mother up there.
Well, then, now you're jumping around a little bit. So y'all used to go around the same crowd, you say, but you
Yeah.
didn't really.
They, no.
So then, how did we finally get together? 'Cause-
I'm coming to
oh,
that.
okay. I'm sorry.
So, when I went to Danville, your daddy followed me up there about every weekend that he could. And that's how we started going together.
Well, why do you think he followed you up there? It wasn't because you were a mascot or anything?
Because I was so cute.
There you go. All right.
I mean,
just want to clear that
I was
up.
cute.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, you had to be, huh?
And you were quiet but cute. And so we started going together, and one Easter he came up there and brought Mama, and he said, I want to get married. And so we waited till we had a day off, which was April the 23rd, and I caught the bus and came down and met him in Cortland, and he came up from his job, and we got married in the Baptist church.
You were Methodist, though.
I was a Methodist, but I knew if I didn't get married in the Baptist church, Grandma Furby would disown me.
Baptist church was the closest to the clerk's office.
Oh, okay, all right. Now
So
we're
we
getting to the-
couldn't tell anybody because at that time nurses weren't supposed to be married. So we just he communicated back and forth every weekend, and we came home in June after I resigned my job, and got everybody together and told them. I believe we had told your mother and your father.
Mm.
You hadn't told anybody, huh? And so then life began. From 1940, when we were married, we went to live with Mr. and Ms. Wilkerson, one room in Norfolk, and I nursed. And for 5 years, that we tried to accumulate a few things, but most of the time we were having fun and dancing every Saturday night. In 1939, we found a little house in Norfolk, and we moved in it, and we're getting our furniture together. We had one bed. And about that time, your daddy was drafted in the big war, World War II, and we had to sell what furniture we had. And after he went in to World War II, he was stationed at Camp Davis, and I found a room in Wilmington, North Carolina, and followed him around every place he went, Bowling Green, Durham, Wilmington. Made some wonderful friends, and I nursed in all the hospitals there, in Wilmington, Bowling Green, and Duke. In 1939, 1939, we found out Ralph was going overseas.
Why we didn't get married already? I mean, 40.
All right, so much for that. Okay.
43.
I knew I'd pick it.
In case you can't see.
Ralph
it,
went
just the
overseas
voice
in
over here.
1939, and in June
43.
43. And to my delight, I became pregnant.
Wait a minute now.
44.
Daddy, now this is Mama's story. If she wasn't to be 39 now, you get your side of it in a minute.
But did not know I was pregnant, so I had to write him a letter. I nursed the whole time
Here I was.
I nursed the whole time I was pregnant. Fortunately, I looked like a teddy bear. But fortunately, I had good health, and I was on with a man that was blind for about 9 months. And so I nursed until I was 8 months pregnant. And Grandma Furby, Ralph's mother, used to say if I didn't stop nursing, I was going to have the baby right in the hospital, but I kept right on. I loved it. Our life began with our son Skip, who was born March the 25th, 1945. Have I got that right?
Ta-da!
10:50 p.m., Norfolk General Hospital. I sent a telegram via the Red Cross. All friends and grandparents, kinfolks were thrilled, and he was such a joy. After Ralph
Yes, I was, Mama.
After Ralph came home, Skip was 18 months old.
No, not 18 months.
9 months old. He was walking and talking and calling Ralph's brother Uncle Bob Daddy.
Uncle Bob. Uncle Bob.
Our life was enriched. We enjoyed each other and brought 14 Channing as our home for my mother. We loved it all. We also brought Tidewater Battery. Ralph, Skip, and I worked and built it up to a credible business. We sold it November the 1st, 1969 to John Everton. The school years of Skip we enjoyed with him, and high school too. We were always together in fun and trials. The good times blessed the bad times. Skip was married the first year in college to Diane, another good blessing. We all attended the marriage, and it was beautiful. Skip and Diane worked hard, and Skip finally graduated on the dean's list in 1967. Nanny died that day. I was in Ashland. She loved Skip and Diane and was so thrilled, and they both brought joy to his life, and little Skip too. He went on to teach in Stanford College. We were blessed with a grandson January the 1st. We were all there, both families.
Which time, Mama? Which time were we all there? Didn't we have a dry run the first time?
Yeah, 3 times. Christmas Eve when we'd been out on a party. January the 1st when we'd been on a party.
That was the only time I ever see Robert. Robert Spence drunk in my whole life, and he had to sit out in the waiting room, half lit. I bet he didn't drink, not even one time a year, I guess. But, I remember that real well.
He'd very probably been to our open house, but we had
Lillian
one
was
for
giving
25
him
years.
some bad eye.
Oh, wow.
And your daddy, who had never been to a birthing of a child, just went back and worried the nurses together. Skip would keep on studying, and we'd sit there, and he went every 5 minutes to see if his daughter-in-law was doing all right.
They were going to handcuff him and throw him out, weren't they?
They won't know if he was a daddy there for a while.
Well, let me ask Daddy something real quick, Mama, while we got a little break here. But Daddy, Mama just told y'all, I mean, if you'd known that I was as good looking as I was, I mean, when you got that message, I know you would have hustled right on back if you could have.
I think I would have stayed overseas.
I don't know that, Daddy.
While working with Ralph between Granny Bob and Ralph Sr. and I were so lucky to be able to keep our grandson for them while Diane worked, and Skip kept his schoolwork going. We decided to buy an old house on Burleson and do it over again. It took us about a year. But leaving Channing, we left a lot of good friends and good times. But we've made many more on Bertie Street. We have enjoyed our home, and it's been blessed with love and fun. Ralph, Skip, and I and Diane brought out givings. All worked together day and night. Our granddaughters came along January the 8th and June the 28th. We were thrilled. I was thrilled to death. But Pop has really enjoyed them so much. And if I didn't watch him, he would deed the house over to him. One time, Dawn asked for some skates, and he was half sick. And he went out and bought her some skates, and the child couldn't even walk. Our grandchildren have brought us, as well as our children, brought us joy and blessing.
Wait just 1 minute, Mama. Let me get ready.
Okay. Ralph and I took lots of wonderful trips and cruises all over the United States abroad. We were blessed, and every time we went away, our family sent us away with lots of good luck. And when we came back, they had signs and parties for us. In the meantime, we have helped Skip and Diane in their new store and enjoyed. We worked together and played together. Well,
Some of your notes are in the next yard, Mama.
I'll just have to wing it. We have been blessed with good health, with happiness, and good times. And the bad times, we've all worked them out together. We've all worked them out together. And I reckon that's just about all, unless you want to ask me some questions.
Oh, I got some questions.
And,
you want to show
but I
these
want to show you
pictures
some
and stuff?
pictures
All
first. Um, I have a little prayer here that I want. Dear Lord, give me the strength to realize my children are individuals too, that they need to be respected as well as loved. Make me wise enough to respect their intelligence, which I help mold, and to leave them to decide their lives for themselves. Make me realize that the accident of birth does not make my children automatic servants to me, or make me a burden to them. Let me know how to cultivate their adult friendship, not to try to buy or hold their love by forcing on them a sense of responsibility. And I hope my son always remembers our code. One blink, two blinks. That's all. This is a picture of me when I was a baby.
You were a fat little baby.
How old were you?
Yeah, how old were you, Mama?
1 1/4 month old. Mary Eleanor Kellum. And may I read something from the book Nanny wrote, because it's kind of cute. Hold your hat. This is the best I recall about the Kellums. This is about Mr. Kellum, and that's my grandfather Kellum, came from the war and saw his baby, Daddy's father, Henry Ward Kellum. Then he died, and Miss Kellum married a Douglas. Mrs. Douglas, the former Mrs. Kellum, had Aunt Desi and a boy. This boy, this boy fell off a horse and died. Miss Kellum's daddy's mother.
Wait a minute. Now, who fell off a horse?
Aunt Desi, boy.
Desi's boy.
Miss
okay.
Kellum's, this is my mother's
Okay.
own handwriting.
No, I understand, Mom. I lived with Nanny for a long time. She was my roommate. So you don't have to tell me
Miss
that.
Kellum's daddy's mother was a nurse, an only child. That was my grandmother. My big baby who was born looked like a nurse. They nicknamed her Molly, and she was a hat. Oh, Mama, forgive me. I got to giggle. Aunt Desi spoke lovely of her, and Mrs. Douglas hired Mrs. Kellum to stay with the children. Mr. Kellum had pneumonia and was to marry his nurse just before he decided to marry. He gave a certain amount to all of my husband's brothers, and he had 4 of them: Franklin, Leroy, don't you see them about Leroy Ralph? Franklin, Leroy, Leon, Ethel, and Henry. And to my knowledge, all of them are dead.
One of those uncles of hers painted church steeples.
That was Leroy. He fell off.
He fell off a horse, Daddy.
No,
He
no,
fell
he
off
fell
the
church
steeple,
steeple.
too.
He didn't think he was a church steeple, right? I mean, he painted them,
He
right?
really painted.
Okay.
Put on 3 coats at one time.
Well, that's all.
Oh, yeah, I thought you had a paper you want to show me, though, too.
A what?
Paper, I'll get it there. Yeah.
This is it is a Civil War. It is a Civil War, isn't it?
War
That's
between the
famous.
states, Mama. You're a good Southern girl. It should be the war between the states.
This is a certified paper that my grandpa Reba was in the war between the 2 states. He was 15 years old, and he had to have somebody sign for him.
What side was he on, man?
Our sign.
Our side.
They was
The losing side, right?
And you know my daddy's name was Leonard Thomas Kellum. He was born November the 14th, died November the 2nd. My mother's name was Alice Ursel Clark Kellum, born September 21st, 1895, and died June the 30th, 1967. And Ralph will tell you about his folks. I have one brother left, and he's 69 years old.
How old are you, Mama?
39.
Kind of windy out here, ain't it?
And this is a picture of my grandfather, Henry Ward Kellum, and he is the one that worked at the Camp Company, and he was a lumberman. All my people were lumber people.
He didn't fall off a horse or nothing.
No, he,
Did he paint horses?
no.
Just wondering.
And this is a picture of Diane that I treasure, and Skip and Little Skip when they were in college.
That's a good-looking guy way to the left.
This is a picture of me after I graduated,
Is that a picture of me, Mom?
and that,
That's a little
the picture of Queen Elizabeth. I got this. This is funny. We had one color baby right after another born, and color babies are pretty singular, and each of them had 6 fingers, and we used to often wonder who that colored man was that had 6 fingers that was so busy. But she had a tracheotomy, and we adopted her. This is a picture of your daddy that he sent for me overseas. Would you believe I didn't even have a picture of him? And I used to show this to you, and you say, "Bob, Daddy."
I was a very mixed-up individual. Mom.
Yeah, but
Do
you
you think
got.
that's what started me off on being so mixed
I
up?
definitely do. And I showed you the picture when I was in training.
Yep.
This is a picture of Uncle Bob and your daddy. Daddy's the oldest one.
Straighten that picture up there.
Isn't that cute?
Yeah.
And this is, I want you to get a good picture of this. This is a picture of only picture I've got of your granddaddy, full length. And that was taken in Gilmanton with his gang. He was a man's man. Okay?
Okay.
This is another picture of your daddy. I've got so many little treasures, but I always, when I get blue, I take this one out and look at it. You know, we had open houses for 25 years, and this is one of them. Well, I'll tell you the truth, that's about all I got to say, unless you want to ask me about some of these people way back.
Well, how about all the people in Newbern? Where did, I mean, like, what did they, I mean,
Well,
how did, I mean, we used to go see them all the time.
yeah.
Did they ever live up here, or did they always
Yeah,
live there?
everybody lived in Gilmanton at one time because they were all lumber people, working in the lumber company. And Aunt Nanny and Uncle Frank moved to Newbern with the lumber company after it went bankrupt, or whatever you call it. They moved it away. We all moved. That was the year I moved there. And Aunt Nanny was my mother's sister, and they were very close. And they had three children, Ed, Francis, and Elder Lee. They had one little boy that died. And we were all close. We made it a point. They came here for the summer, and we went there for the summer.
How about your brother, her brothers and sisters? Is that the only one she had was Aunt Nanny?
No, she had Uncle Reba.
Oh,
Uncle Reba was Mother's brother, and he died about 15 years ago. And when we were little, he used to come to see us, and we're very close, but he was an invalid, and we didn't see too much of him in the latter part of the year. For no good reason, except he was in the Veterans Hospital and didn't know anybody. Have I left anybody out? And my brother, of course, married Verna Vick. And I was the matron of honor. And they have two daughters, Joanne Keller and Laverne Keller. Laverne Keller married Dr. Latouche, and they live in Elkin, Virginia, and have two children, Christine and Laura.
Oh, well, your daddy was a head mason, wasn't he? What was it?
Oh yeah, he was very. I came from a very Masonic inclined person. He was one of the youngest masons to ever be master at Lake Drummond Lodge, and he had a photographic mind. They said he could look at something, and that was it. He was very, very active in Masons.
He was past district deputy.
And he was a past district deputy. Deputy chief.
All right, wait a minute now, hang on.
And his picture is now in Deep Creek. He said, when your daddy first met me, he said, "Oh my God, somebody from Craddock. I know she stinks." And I had to remind him of that 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, well, it was kind of rough. Y'all didn't have a lot of people intermingling them between schools, did it?
No.
Y'all kind of
Went all the way over to Norfolk General and met him over there. But that's what he said. I'll never forget that as long as I
Deep
live.
Creek was kind of a hickey school.
Oh,
wasn't
my
it?
daddy would have blown the top if he'd known that I was going with the Deep Creek boy. And
Well, how old were you when your father died, Mom?
I was 19, our first year in training.
What did he die of?
He had angina, and he died of a severe angina attack. We knew that about a year before he died. But he was very stubborn, and he went on and did exactly what the doctor told him not to do.
That's
You
what
didn't-
he took after.
You didn't get none of that from him, did you?
No, I'm perfect. And he died. One day he and Granny had been, my mother had been to a baseball game, and which they ever went, hardly ever went like that together. And he came back and sat in his favorite chair and told he wanted some apple pie. Of course, herself said he wasn't supposed to have it. She was getting it anyway, and he cried out and died. And that was my second year in training. 1935, November the 2nd. And he would have been, his birthday would have been November the 14th.
Wait just a minute.
But where was I?
Well,
My daddy died November 2nd, 1935. And all the people from, neighbors from Channing Avenue came over to get me. And I was in the color ward giving baths, and they came to tell me, and they brought me back home. And all the Masons in the Eastern Star were in the house with Nanny and helped us through it. I could only stay with Nanny 3 days because that's all you were allowed, and then you had her training. And I went back home, but the Masons and the Eastern Stars helped me through training after that. Not necessarily financially, but they tried to see that Mama did everything. Tried to help her, and the Methodist Church, our Methodist Church. We had a lot going in this little town. We really did. It was close. We knew all the good things and the bad things about people. When somebody was down, regardless of whether it was good or bad, we all went to help them. And my daddy's funeral was the biggest ever attended. He had a Masonic funeral, and the Baptist people came because he used to help them a lot with the young folks. And he led a wonderful life. In fact, if you ask me who gave me my stamina to go on, and my favorite man, I'd have to say it was my daddy, because he did it his way. He wasn't perfect, but he did it his way. And my next favorite man would have to be my husband. I'm going to start talking.
Yeah, he better include you. And of course,
My
if she went
husband.
to 3, you know who it would be, right?
My husband, but for Ralph, because of his wonderful disposition, I was always a quiet type, but he would get me going. We can do it. My third one would have to be my son,
See, I told you.
because I've always been so comfortable around him, whether we were playing Mickey Mouse or whether I was telling him the water was better upstairs than down, so I wouldn't have to go up and down the steps so much.
And the ice. Don't forget
The ice. And ice, when he'd call, Mama, I want some ice water, I'd make you have gas.
And I believed her, too. That's what's so bad.
Okay.
You know, I remember Nanny real well, and I know you do, too. I called your mother, my grandmother, Nanny. Don't know why. You know why?
No?
That blows that. I thought that would add a couple more minutes to this interview.
No,
but
no.
It's just like I used
He
to call
just
my
got
grandpa
looked up one day and
Papa.
said, Nanny, and that was it.
She was always a real good lady, and I remember that some of the things I remember about her. Excuse me, ma'am.
Sir. Excuse me. I had a little sip out of my cup.
Some of the things I remember about it, she never talked about anybody. Everything she ever said, and you know, and we're just all family here. I mean, everybody's got their faults, and I remember she used to aggravate me because she lived with us, and when I'd had the guys come in the house, you know, she'd come on down there and sit down, and you know, we wanted to talk about, you know, who screwed who the other night or something. You know, we couldn't do it because Nanny was down to ask us did we want a sandwich or something like that. Just sweet lady, you know. And I remember probably about one of the biggest things. I don't think you could ever drag anything bad. I don't think she knew how to talk bad about anybody. I mean, like you say, had a lot of faults. Everybody did.
She didn't like me.
Yeah. What, no faults or she never, you know, I don't ever remember, she'd always, if you tried to corner her, she'd find something nice to say about them, like they kept the shoes clean or
Right.
something, you know, something really, you know, I always, and I think, I don't think I really appreciated a whole lot, I mean, as much. I appreciated it more after I got away to college and everything, we were writing and everything. And I just, you know, just how good a person she was. I guess that's something maybe I could do on my interview for my kids later on. You know, they talk about modern women and everything, and I think, I always felt, and looking back on it now, you probably one of the first ones. I know that you the only one on the block that worked.
That's right.
Everybody else's mom was home and stuff like that. And I don't remember, like we talked about many times before, I don't remember nothing but good times.
That's
And
right.
I'm sure that there was plenty of times when I wish you'd have been home like everybody else's mama, but I don't really remember that. Just remember some good times. And I know that Daddy and you both worked very hard at the store and getting it started and everything. And I know that Daddy had to work some long hours. At least he said he was working down at the store. We're not too sure. But lots of times Mom would just, you know, pack me up and we'd go to Sandbridge, get stuck in the sand. Remember that, Mama?
Yes, it wasn't Easter.
And then I remember one time it was a sandstorm, got out at dark. Didn't think we'd have, at Sandbridge now, I don't think you could find any sand down there except on the beach now. It's built up so much. When we went down there, it was only about 2 or 3 places down there. And I remember Nags Head going down there, and that was really different. But I think the biggest time I remember was Knott's Island, and some good old times. And I remember the time. Why don't you tell everybody about the time you saw the snake, Mama?
Well, I went out the front door and there was this great big snake out there, and it
How
was
big was that snake, Mama? I mean,
at least
we
10,
got a video
at
now.
least
I mean,
10 feet long.
Oh, at least that.
At
right?
least. And I wasn't sure what kind of snake it was, but I didn't want it to come in the house, so it was about July the 3rd, and I built a fire in that pot belly stove so no more would come out. And so it wouldn't come up the chimney and come in the stove.
You think the snake
brought
would come down
children.
the chimney like Santa Claus? Or something?
Yeah, yeah, I thought that was the first place it would head for. And you and I stayed in the house until your daddy came. And he looked all over that place and showed me pictures of snakes to try to identify the one he had. And I told him that I couldn't identify them because they weren't in that book.
So you can imagine it might have been a little odd. Of course, Daddy, he kind of knew both of us anyway, so I guess it should have been no big surprise him come down in the hottest part of the year and him seeing smoke coming out of the chimney, right, Mama?
That's right.
I mean, that should have been no big surprise to him, I guess.
It was.
I think some of the best times I remember was that she used to catch the biggest fish and most fish I'd ever see down Knott's Island. But the dirtiest thing was she couldn't get them off the hook. Yeah, that's about the only thing. And then the other thing I remember was
She
that.
didn't have a fishing license.
Yeah, well, she got one later on, didn't she? But she didn't need one, Daddy. You know, because she was fishing on our property. You know, that man had no right to give her a ticket, right? I mean,
Like the time the state trooper gave her a ticket that time.
well, that
She
was.
had a North Carolina driver's permit.
Yeah, well, that was okay too, and the sign on the interstate didn't say definitely she couldn't make that, and it didn't say no, it just said authorized vehicle, so she thought she was authorized, right?
Right.
I mean, I can understand that, Mom. How about the tree? Maybe I should get to Daddy about the tree, but I mean, the time I always heard about the tree that
Oh, yeah.
that knocked the car.
2 or 3 times.
And of course the bridge it swayed on you, but I mean the tree down there, what was it, near Leggett's?
That's what she said. Yeah.
Sears, Betty and Bob. It was down there. I had
Yeah.
Dolores Powell was with me, and she saw it too.
Well, I mean now
It was in on the curb, but it grew out, you know.
Grew out.
In the parking area. And she was parking and she hit it. But it was so funny. I mean, I asked her to show me because I thought the city should know about it. And we went down to take a look at it. We never did find it.
they probably went there and cut it
I
down.
think they cut it down.
Hey,
before we
Dane,
got
this
there.
is the time you can flush them all right on down. But stick with them. They have more fun than we do. I'll tell you. Well, I'd like to go back to Knott's Island, though. I had some of the best times I ever had in my life. We had no doctor down there. Well, I did bring some methylate, and Skip and I used to go all over the island in that little boat paddling. Nobody knew where we were, and we just trusted and had a good time. Went over to Goats Island, got ticks, but we went there. And
Got ticks everywhere, I think.
and I did not know he knew how to drive a motorboat, because that was a no-no down Knott's Island.
Nobody even had one, I don't guess.
Till your daddy brought one down, and I saw him come around the cove, and I was furious. And your daddy said, "Never mind, I've been teaching him for him." That's how they do, Diane. Is there any more questions that you can think of?
Yeah, what, you gotta go somewhere?
Yes.
Where you gotta go?
I've got to go to the little girls' room.
Well, we can stop. We can stop. I push stop.
Well, I thought maybe I would be through. But I've had a ball.
Don't mess his hair up, Mom. All right, well, look. The other thing about Knott's Island, I remember, is that you could always hear Mama when she caught a fish. You go, ooh! And she'd start yelling for somebody to come over here. And she'd come over here and them damn fish would look about as big as your leg.
Who
on
was
my
that?
leg.
Who was the old man that lived down the end?
White.
No.
Brumley. Yeah, Brumley.
And he was supposed to be the game warden over there too, and he'd come over and get His cell phone.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Well, that's probably where Mama started a life of crime at, you know? Now, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Could have been. I mean, you know, she started, started right there. And, you know, the thing about a driver's license was that she got a driver's license from North Carolina when she was nursing, and it didn't have a expiration date.
Right. Public health.
Right, public health. And, of course, that was in 1940. Now, we're talking about getting a ticket in 1960. So a couple of years had lapsed, and I'm sure some laws had changed. But I'll never forget the time, Mama, that we were, I think it was Phyllis, too, was in the boat one time. And I remember you reared back one of those rear back things, and when you cast out, your pants fell down.
Yeah. That's right.
Oh, it went right down to your knees,
Yeah.
Mama. Being a gentleman that I was, I looked over to the other side or something like that, pretend like I didn't see what happened. But I think Mama caught a fish on that one too. I'm not positive, but what is tell me, now think about it, man. Tell me your most favorite joke. I mean, or tell me a joke. Now, let me interrupt just a minute here. My mother is a world-renowned joke teller. Now, if she doesn't tell you this joke, I think I'll tell you the joke about the one time she came up to me. She said, "Now, I heard the funniest joke today." She said, "These four men were on one side of the street, Skip, and two of them crossed over to the other side." And then she started laughing, and I waited, and that was it. That was the end of the joke. I never did understand that joke, Mom. I want to tell you that right now. I laughed, but I didn't understand it. I think there was something missing there. But do you have a joke that you'd like to tell your son right now?
Tell you.
Tell me. Tell me a joke.
And no, I tell you, Skip, my mind goes blank when it gets jokes. I'll tell you that right now. I love to hear them and I love to laugh, but it really goes blank.
Well, tell me about, you used to catch a lot of stuff about your hats and everything. I remember that, particularly from Bob.
Yeah.
About your hat.
I used to love pretty hats in my day and time. You had to wear them. And Uncle Page and Uncle Bob, if I was in a parade from Craddock High School, have a hat on, they'd say, "Here comes the Queen," and I could have killed them. Well, one day I was coming home from church and I had the prettiest hat on you ever saw him. And Skip and Ralph had already gone home. And it had flowers all on it, and it must have been as big as I was. And I was coming down just as pretty, and Ralph says, "For God's sake, who's that?" I took that hat, and the first person I saw, I gave it to him, who was Jimmy Pepper's wife. She had gone to church too. But he used to hate to see me in hats, and I loved it.
Then another hat she got rid of. It. The best, nicest looking hat I ever saw her wear. It was like a derby like. You know, she looked nice in it. And you and myself, we'd been to Sunday school right in front of the church, and I said, "Here comes the jockey," you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it looked like that.
Well, I was
And
very
she never
tennis,
wore it. She
yeah.
never wore it anymore.
Now I would knock you in the head with it, but then I was shy. I didn't say much.
Tell me about some of them open houses, Mama.
Well, when your dad and I first came back from overseas, I said, he said, "What would you like to do Christmas?" I said, "Always have an open house Christmas Eve." Because no matter where we were, whether we were in a hotel room for business or whether we had one room, when we were first married, we always had a Christmas tree. And I said, "I'd like to have open house." So I started out, every Christmas Eve I would have them. I started out having the children first. I would have hours from 2 to 3 for the children. And then in the evening would be for the adults. I started out first having just the people on our block. And then it grew till I would have 50 and 75 people to come in and out. The children grew, and they came in and stayed till about 8 or 9 o'clock. And we had customers there, friends, people I didn't even know would come in. And all I had to say was that the Furbers were having open house. And I can truthfully say that everybody loved to come and have a good time. We
I
had
remember one Christmas Eve you had, was it 300 or 400 people come through? I mean,
really
it
was
was
a
a mess
large amount. It really was, and I don't remember. And I should have had a book, a guest book, for that amount of people.
I think you
And,
did one time. That was that year we counted them, and there was a little thing in the newspaper.
Yeah, I have that in my
Somewhere.
scrapbook for you. And everybody seemed to have a good time. We had something for people that drank and something for people that didn't drink. And that was one of the things your dad and I said, that when he came back from overseas, our parents were so opposed to drinking that there would always be a drink in the house for somebody if they wanted it. And we always did, whether no matter who or where it was. But we had a good time, and I didn't have a caterer then. I'd have just make up peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or something, but we really had a good time. Enjoyed it very much. And the only thing I didn't know till after it was all over with now, because you were just, 3 or 4 years old when we started them, and I had them up until I moved around here and you were in college. In fact, I had one more after I moved around here, and you were our bartender that year, but we just decided to stop it after that and be with our grandchildren and all on Christmas Eve. That's when that started. But you told me one day, you said, Mama, after you got older, the only thing was y'all were making so much noise downstairs that I didn't think Santa Claus was coming.
Yeah, I was
And it never occurred to me that you even thought that. But that was when you were a grown man and in high school, when I said, well, honey, I never even thought about that. One time you had a turtle in the bathtub, and Joe Watson, our very good friend, went up there, and he was the cutest drunk I ever saw in my life. And he went up there and he came back and he said, Eleanor, there's something in your tub, but it's got its mouth open, and it was thirsty. And I turned the spigot over and gave it some water, and away I went. So that was that. And
I think that was a turtle I got at one of the Boy Scout camps or something like that. And kept it in there. I think that was it. I remember that. He died later on, too.
And we had not only the fun crowd that came in, but Ms. Melvin, our good friend who still is 90-some years old, she used to love to come with her. And Nanny enjoyed it too. Nanny would never go out to the kitchen where there was a little tidy, but she was in there. And she would play the piano for us.
I remember Peg of My Heart.
Peg of My Heart. And she would play the piano and we would sing. And later on, it got down to Jimmy Crack Corn.
That was later on. That was
later
that
on.
was the close of
About 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, yeah.
And your
I
dad and
remember
Jimmy
that.
Pebworth would put on a performance.
Did George Bazemore ever sing?
No, George didn't ever sing, but he'd come up to the house and go in the kitchen and stay till about 2 o'clock in the morning.
That's about the only time he ever drank.
The only time he ever drank was when he came down. And then the most disastrous time, we never had a disaster, I reckon, was when somebody brought in some corn liquor. And Willa Temple, a cousin of Ralph's, decided to show me how to test corn whiskey. You throw it on the kitchen floor and light a match to it. And if the fire got all blazed and everything, it was all right for you to go take a drink of it. But if it smolted, it hadn't been cured right, or whatever you call it. So he proceeded to do that and burnt a hole in my kitchen floor. But the whiskey was good, so they proceeded to drink it.
Well, I remember the time you had the unbreakable plates too.
Yeah.
I remember one Christmas Eve you had to show everybody had these plates you just got. I think they were covers for Vepco meters is what they really were.
Cover for Vipco meters, and somebody brought me to take down the cottage, and I said, the beautiful part is you can't break them, and I threw them on the floor, and it just went all over everywhere.
So you broke them.
I broke them. But we had preachers and lawyers. We had people that drank. We had people that didn't. And we had friends. We had customers. And it all started when you were about 3 or 4 years old. And then as later years go on, the girls got bigger. They wanted to come and dress up. Because I told them they could not come unless they dressed up. And that was the beginning of Christmas.
Patricia, Nita Fay,
Christine, Nita Fay, and Crystal Lynn, and Charles and Phyllis always came. Mr. Viz McDonald. And we just had them from everywhere.
What was some really, some fun times or funny times in your childhood that you remember, Mama? I mean, is there any particular thing that pops out in your mind, you know?
No, I had a wonderful childhood. I used to get dressed and wait for my daddy to come home from the lumber company and sit on that picket fence out in front of Gilmerton. And I reckon the funniest time was when Ellen Lee and Francis and all of us got together. The minute we looked at each other, we started giggling. And we kept right on giggling for the 2 weeks that they were here. And one time they came down to Grandpapa Clark, which he had a house in Gilmerton. And they told us we could bundle up, and it was snowing, and go out the back and walk around. So we did. And out in the back somebody had fixed some rabbit traps. And we looked in there and we found all these rabbits that the man had trapped. So Frances Sutton, who she and I were very, very much alike, and she said, I think we ought to let them go. And I said, me too. And we got one of the worst punishment. And Ellen Lee said, me too. We'll let them all go. So the man came and told on us. And our eyes were that big, and we said, yes, we did. But we got a real good punishment then, because that was his meat, and he was raising rabbits to sell and to eat. And my dad and mother used to make things for me. Mama made doll clothes. Daddy made houses for me. And we just had a good time. We enjoyed everything.
Well, why didn't you ever learn how to play the piano, Mama?
Well, I tried.
Well,
And
your
I
mama
don't
could
know
play
who
good.
I was like. I wasn't like either my mother or my daddy. But I tried. Mama never insisted on me doing anything like that. And she said, I'm going to give you piano lessons. And I had them for about 2 weeks, and the lady came around. And she said, you're wasting your time, Miss Calvin. Ellen can never play the piano. She can't sit still long enough, and her hands aren't big enough to make the octaves or whatever they were. And she said, I think she's got other talents, which I've tried to do. But I have always loved music, and I love dancing, and I danced quite a bit. I even danced on stage one time, but I was embarrassed to death, and I didn't do that again.
You led the orchestra one of them
But I danced.
Tell me about that, Mama.
He'll tell you about that.
Oh,
I
okay.
danced quite a bit. When I was in training, we'd have plays, and I danced.
Well, I saw y'all dance a couple times. Y'all really looked good
Yeah.
together, I thought.
Fred Astaire and Ginger.
Yeah. Fred, which one was Fred, you know? Well, what else did you want to, any particular other thing that you,
No, I've had a wonderful life. It's been I've been thankful for my health, and I just have always seemed to enjoy everything that we did. And I tell you,
that was a real joy for you, wasn't
we wouldn't have managed to do since we still be going to parties and messing and not accumulating anything if it hadn't been for you.
it? Yeah, tell them, Mom.
They told me I couldn't have you, but I fooled them. I had you,
Yeah.
and you were a joy in this
Wasn't that
world.
right, Bob?
Right.
Joy in this world.
Definitely. All right, Mom. Let me ask you one question now. This is something.
And my favorite book is Gone with the Wind. My favorite color is blue. My favorite song is Always. My favorite sport is tennis, was tennis, and swimming. I swam until I was 70 years old in a pool somewhere, somehow. Then I put my dancing shoes and my swimming suit away. How's them onions?
That's pretty good. What else? What else do you want to say? What else
I
do you
believe
think?
I've said about all I can say.
Really?
Yeah. Shall I cross myself?
No. Just what else? Now, this is something that maybe, I don't know, maybe grandchildren, my grandchildren, it'd be your great grandchildren, or somebody later on might see this thing. Maybe. Is there something you want to tell them, or anything?
I want to tell them that they have come from good stock, and don't let anybody ever put you down, and go out there, honey, and go as long as you can. Enjoy life. Work hard. Pay your dues, and have fun.
Well, that's something that, you know, I never knew my grandpa, your father, and like I didn't know Dad's mom. This is, you know, if it comes out, God, I hope it does. I mean, this is something that, like I say, that great-grandchildren can look at, you know, and, look at later on and everything. So there's nothing else you...
No, I'm 5 foot tall, and I weigh 105 pounds. I've still got brown hair, brown eyes. Although when I was born, I had big blue eyes and blonde eyes. And
hat back, all that stuff, and just say a couple things to see what it looks like, you know? All right, there. All right?
And this is for you. Okay.
I want to let you know that my dad always wears these hats. Let me fix this thing for him. He always looks so sharp dressing. My mom does too. My dad, I guess that goes back to his salesman days or something, doesn't it, Dad?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Wait a minute. All right. Go ahead and take your hat off. Put your glasses on.
All right. Keep my hat on.
I can't see your face.
Oh, okay.
Main thing I want to do is show everybody that crew cut haircut.
Oh, that ain't.
And this is coming back in style now, Daddy, but you hung in there a long time with that crew cut hair stuff before it came back in.
Well, I tell you, there's a little story behind that. When I came home from the service after the big war,
The WW2.
yeah, I let my hair grow, and then I went in as a salesman, and I was continuously having to comb my hair, and I said, well, the heck with this. So I go back to my barber and tell him to give me a GI, and I've been wearing them ever since.
All right, Daddy. I think I'm ready, buddy.
Okay, I have a long story. On August the 30th, 1914, I made my appearance in this old world. It was on a Sunday. My name was arrived at by my first name, Ralph, being the first name of my father's best friend. My middle name, Luxford, was the name of the doctor who delivered me. I understand after all that ordeal, he committed suicide. Of course, Furby is an old English name which is popular in Virginia and North Carolina. My father was reared by a family of Uptons in Princess Anne County. Also where I was born. My father had a brother named John who died about the time of my birth. His mother and brothers and sisters all died in a flu epidemic. So my grandfather was the only one I remember. His name was Benson B. Furby. He lived with us until he died. He was about 64, and to my knowledge was always too old to work. My mother was married at 14. I was born when she was 15. Her parents died at age 42 and 44. It was a large family, so the children were sent out to whoever would take them for any length of time. My mother was a Temple, Margaret Ann, always known as Nanny. She was a small woman and the head honcho in the family. When she died in 1947, my father did not know if he owed money or if he had a good bank account. He was a good man, but he left everything up to her. She had two brothers, Paul and Louis. Sisters were Mary, Sally, Thelma, Marie, Catherine, and Minnie. Her parents' name was Laura and James. Laura died in Pasquotank County, North Carolina, at 44. I do not know the date James was. I don't know the name. I don't know the date of James, but James was waiting for a boat to take him into Norfolk. Had a heart attack and died in a few minutes. This happened at Douglas Road and where US 17 is now. He was 42. Marie and Minnie stayed with us for quite some time. Thelma had a son. His name was Corner. She left town and no one ever heard from her. Minnie did about the same. She had a son but no husband. She left town and would contact us now and then, but we knew not what happened to her through or the name of it.
So let me try to explain something to you. My father has the worst handwriting in the world. Not even he can read it, see.
The remainder of the family died of natural causes. Okay. Marie is still living to this date. She has always been my favorite. When I was in school, I spent most of the summers at her home over on Eastern Shore, Parksley, Virginia. Her husband, Bernie Taylor, was real good to me. We were always good pals. I remember I was only about 11 or 12. He would let me drive his car, which was an old Essex. He and his friend Dank would get their jug and the ukulele. They would do the nipping and I would do the driving. and helped them out of trouble also when I got him home. I remember very little before I started school at a one-room building in Wollaston. I was only in school about 2 weeks when I was taken with typhoid fever, and I was away for approximately a year. My doctor's name was Eason. He was a card. He had horse and buggy and would tell me real tales. When I began to recover, he told me I could chew up a piece of beef, but could not swallow it. I asked when I could swallow the beef. He said the next time he made his visit. I told him I would wait until then to chew it. Then you were lucky if you made it through the typhoid, and they would starve you to death. I had to learn to walk, and the skin on my body peeled off on account of the high fever. After I got over that, I do not think I was sick again. And before that, something was always happening. I will never forget some things that happened along the way. One time my dad he was in the mood for economizing, so he cut my hair to save 25 cents, which was a going price at the time. It was so fouled up, I was embarrassed for anyone to see me, and they had to, before it had to grow out. I also had this goat. He was always in trouble and kept me in bed with my mother. We finally got rid of him, and we moved to a place on the Dismal Swamp Canal, Big Entry, below Wollaston. My cousin gave me this little pig. We did not think it would live because the mosquitoes and so forth had about eaten her up. My dad dipped it in a bucket of oil mixed with sulfur. All the hair came off and the bites went away, and she was a beautiful hog. My dad butchered her when the time came, and not one of us would eat any of the meat. They gave it to the neighbors who lived nearby.
Well, I remember Daddy, what you told me about that one time was that the pig followed you all around like a dog.
Right, it did. And the pig weighed over 200 pounds when my dad butchered it.
What was the pig's name?
I don't recall. I know it had a name. It had to have a name. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he followed you around like a dog, right?
Right. And at Big Entry is right up from the feeder ditch. It's where the Richmond Cedar Works train used to go back and bring the logs in from the swamp. And that's my dad took care of that bridge, letting boats through and so forth. And I used to say, he fixed me up a little old dink line, a hook and line, and I would catch these little old sun perch. And that old hog would stay right there by me, lay down there and eat those things as fast as I'd catch a fish.
So it was almost like a pet.
Yeah, it was a pet.
But he got too big or something.
My mother had a heck of a time keeping her out of the house. I mean, she thought she could come in the house just like we did, you know. wasn't too good. Yeah. All right, about this time, my brother Bob was born. He was a character from the beginning. He cried quite a bit, and the only way my dad could hold him was when my mother wrapped Bob's head up so he couldn't see what was going on. I remember we had this Model T Ford touring car. We stopped at South Mills, North Carolina on the way back from Elizabeth City. We lived at Arbuckle then, where the feeder ditch and the canal is. At Wasson, Bob and myself were on the back seat, and the car had curtains on it because it was in wintertime. Well, the door flew open and Bob rolled out in the road and started yelling, but Dad took a while to stop. When he did stop, there was Bob running toward the car. No harm done. Another time we had a number of cats in the little neighborhood, and Bob and his friend Junior Dunbar thought their tails were too long. So we really had some bobtail cats in that neighborhood. I could go on about him. One Christmas, the weather was like summertime, and Bob got this heavy jacket and red top boots for Christmas. We were he wore those things the entire day and sat behind the stove to warm. Bob was a lover. All the girls went for him because he was sterile, and they did not have to worry about getting pregnant. He was married 3 times, and at his funeral 2 of his former wives were there. He was separated from the 3rd. He was living with Eleanor and myself, and we had good times together. He had a bad heart. The Dr. Carr said it was one of the most severe cases he had ever experienced. A couple of years before he died, he had a heart attack, and Dr. Powell told me to get the boys together because Bob would not make it. I talked it over with Skip, and he said, "Dad, let us try another doctor." That was when Dr. Carr came in and got him going again. He returned to work, but he would not take care of himself. In 1930, my dad lost his job with the State Highway Department. It was during the Depression, and we really had it rough. We took any type of work we could get, by the hour, day, week, or what, and never asked what the salary was. When I finished high school at Deep Creek in 1933, and it was in the spring of '34, I had my first regular job at $10 a week at Klein Chevrolet in Norfolk. I asked the manager if it was a regular job. He said it was 7 days a week, and he was right. Another thing that made the pressing a little tighter. My mother had 2 more boys, Paige, and 2 years later, Charles. Mother always said she had 2 families. There was so much difference in ages. I was about finished school and my first job away from home, and I had no means of transportation, so I had to stay near the job. So I was not around Paige or Charles too much when they were babies and older. Paige was a mama's boy and Charles liked to hunt. I would take him with me now and then. Okay. Mother died in 1947. Paige had just finished high school. Charles had another year. When Charles finished, he joined the Air Force, but Paige took what jobs he could get here. He got married, and they had 3 kids, one after the other, Bill, Vernon, and Patty. Their mother left them when they were babies, and we took care of them until Paige married again. He has 4 children from this last marriage. This family is in Upper New York State, and we do not see or hear from them very often. I helped Paige until I found out he was depending on me instead of himself, so I quit. Charles married young, but he has a real nice wife, Floppy. A son, Chuck, who has 2 children, and their daughter, Chris, is in D.C., and I understand she has a